This episode is brought to you by freeflow.ai, because if your best workflow lives inside Karen's head and Karen's on PTO, you've got a problem. Freeflow.ai brings clarity to agency operations without replacing your people, just replacing the mess. Welcome back to Risk Seller, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brandon Schuh.
And I'm Nick Hartmann. We're back.
We're back. We're back on a, kind of a depressing week here, Minneapolis-wise. Got a lot going on here.
It's not the weather, folks.
It's not the weather. The weather's not great either, but we got a lot going on here.
A crazy time.
What are you drinking today?
I'm drinking a Humano Tequila, Reposado. Made in Mexico, really good, really good. I don't think you can get this in Minnesota, probably.
Can't get it in Minnesota?
Can't get it there.
Especially with, everything going on, probably. Definitely locked up.
Yeah, you can't. Who owns this? Oh, it's Luis Abundis, who along with his Ana Riviera.
Oh, I know Luis.
Brand to honor farmers and land, focusing on single estate additive-free production with strong social mission. I like that. They aim to tell a story about families and traditions behind their tequila, emphasizing a human touch from the field to the glass. It's wonderful, actually.
Well, I'm drinking one of the best wines I've had in a while here. Showing up. We're doing, oh, by the way, big news tonight, people. This is our first video. We're releasing this on our new YouTube channel.
There's no way. Not this one, the next one.
No, we're doing this. We're doing it. We're going to test it out.
Too grainy.
If it's grainy, it's fine. If it drops, it does. It's really there for the searchableness of it. I don't expect people to come on and really pay attention to the video, but it's there for the search.
I don't like it.
Well, it's not the first time. I'm drinking a Chianti today, and this is I got this from my property broker at RT Specialty, Ted Cornell. Ted, thank you. Caparsa. Caparsa. Chianti Classico, 2021. It's the best wine I've had in a long time. I like Chianti, though, so that might be part of it.
It's good. Does it have the rooster on it?
It's got like some sort of kind of Picasso-ish drawing here. I don't know. It's very sketch artisty.
I love it. So what does it taste like?
It's full bodied, a lot of body, but fruity. It's very fruity. What else?
Plums, blackberries.
I'd say blackberry. A lot of blackberry.
Probably some tobacco.
So a little earthy. Oh, this is really good. This is a really good YouTube video. You just walking away. There he goes, folks. Nick just left the scene. Left the scene for us. Well, let me do a quick ChatGPT analysis of Caparsa.
After the CES, you really need your face on more devices.
I need my face on as many traditional and untraditional media media as I can get. All right. Caparsa.
That's where we differ.
Caparsa is a small traditional estate in Rada in Chianti, one of the highest, coolest, and most austere corners of Chianti Classico. The wines are unapologetically I can't even. Anyways, let's see. What do we got? Caparsa wines are linear, savory, and architectural rather than plush. I don't know about you, but I don't know what architectural wine means. Some sour cherry. I tasted a little
Just
bit.
A lot of structure, Brandon.
Dried rose, wild herbs, iron. You gotta get your iron in your wine. It's like red meat. and crushed stone aromas. On the palate, high acidity, grippy but fine tannins, medium body, persistent saline finish. What does that mean? Oak signature. Yeah. Okay. Overall, tension over generosity, precision over polish. Well, there you go.
It's exactly what it is, isn't it? Pretty complex.
Taut, red-fruited, nervy, needs air, and benefits from food. Well, there you go. I'm excited about this, you know?
Well, Ted, he came through.
Teddy, thank you. Ted, I hope you're feeling better, by the way. He was a little sick. All right. Well, a lot going on.
There's a fair amount going on.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that hit us up last week, me specifically, after the Hayes raid. Now we have another one. Interesting raid on Alliant here, which is usually a culprit in raids.
I thought you were going to lead with the ICE raids. I didn't know what you were talking about.
Well, we're going there. We're going there. We're going there soon, especially with our guest that we'll talk about here in a second, from Eurasia Group. We're going to have a great guest on, Cliff Kupchan, that wrote the annual Top Risks 2026 edition. And so we're going to have Cliff on here momentarily. And we're recording this on Wednesday night. We're going to talk to him on Friday. So just to be transparent. Yeah, excited about that. But anyways, Alliant. So Alliant's normal strategy, KKR owned broker. Their normal strategy is kind of the lift out strategy. And then smash and grab is normally their MO, their modus operandi. But in this case, Alliant is the latest broker to sue Howden, calling it a smash and grab strategy. The suit names 3 former Alliant employees from the energy marine team out of Texas, and the group resigned en masse. So we're starting to get a little trend here, a little trend line in terms of the strategy that they're using. Get a bunch of people to exit at the same time. Already, a temporary restraining order was granted, and they have a hearing set for Friday, January 16th. So by the time this airs, I'll probably have some information in terms of what the court is going to do here. But, this falls in the same category as we talked about last week. And actually, I was just interviewed yesterday on our good friend Micah Solis's podcast, Max Revenue. So check that out. But they were very interested to hear kind of our approach, my approach, and my thoughts around why this Howden strategy is impactful to the rest of the industry, like we talked about last week with the potential repricing that the courts are going to have here. And here's another example. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a good thing to me. What about you?
I can't see how it's a good thing. How do you value the company? It's the relationship piece, right? And if that walks out the door along with a bunch of employees, yeah, it's not going to be great.
Yeah, so I don't know how many people were overall involved in this Alliant deal, but it sounds like a pretty good swath. Here again, depending on how many broker record letters they got before the restraining order hit, we're talking about another kind of tranche of business that is going to be valued by a court here in Texas. We have one in Boston by the Brown and Brown lift, or the Howden lift of Brown and Brown before. So we have courts now in multiple states, Florida, Texas, I think California. No, not California. California doesn't have non-solicits. Maybe New York. But kind of getting a geographic footprint, cross section of the brokerage community, national brokerage community here. So I mean, it could very easily go the direction that we feared here, and the courts starting to be the kind of the pricing index of how public brokerages in particular are going to be valued as we go forward, which isn't good. You don't want a court in charge of your value. I'll tell you that much.
No. Yeah, they don't say here. It's not public. 6 have been identified as producers, apparently. But
So
it could be as many as 40.
Probably multiply that by
natural
5,
resources.
right?
Yeah. Well,
So,
from a client disruption standpoint, it's really good for us. Keep doing it. I like it.
yeah. Well, my theory about Howden acquiring Alliant might have just been put on permanent
Pause.
hold.
Oh, that was your hot take, wasn't it?
That was my hot take.
Hot takes.
Well, I'll say that my hot take was either USI or Alliant, but Alliant, I was favoring Alliant slightly. There's not very many brokers left to target where they could really make a splash. They did have a small acquisition Howden had a small acquisition last week or the week before of a mergers and acquisition style reps and warranties insurance brokerage, is Atlantic. So they've been touting that as some sort of big monumental upgrade to their to their quiver, arrows in their quiver, with a very niche expert market when it comes to reps and warranties, which is of course the covers that nobody buys. So
talk about diluting the purchase price of somebody. Hey, if you represent something improperly, we're going to need this insurance to respond. And these are any and all things that you can possibly think of. Come on.
yeah, exactly.
What is it, like 3% of the deal, typically?
The premium?
Yeah, plus or minus. And it's heavily underwritten, aren't they?
Yeah, it's probably 2%. No, maybe not. I don't know. They're big premiums, but I mean, I think you could, like, you're seeing a lot of activity in the reps and warranties sales of transactions.
Buy it, but they transaction, right?
I mean, transaction deal size of less than 50 million, you're probably looking at 200,000 in premium. So it's, it's small. A lot less than 2%. 2% of it is more of like an investment banking fee than it is an insurance premium cost.
It's kind of the same thing. It's like a consulting fee. We're going to underwrite this thing. The likelihood of a claim happening is fairly insignificant, I would think, right? Doesn't mean you couldn't sue. It's just a defense cover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, next up, interesting article from Insurance Journal that summarized two different takes, one from AM Best and one from Morgan Stanley, both looking at the expense ratios of insurance companies. So just to give the listener a reminder, a combined ratio is like on a pie chart. A combined ratio is basically the total profitability or unprofitability of an insurance company. And the biggest factor that goes into that is a loss ratio, but the rest of it is effectively the expense ratio. So they're looking over the past 10 years, 2014 to 2024 was the kind of the case study of how the trend in expense ratio. And the expense ratio is falling. And they're contributing that to a variety of things, one of which is AI, and it's more forward looking. And the models are predicting something like a 200 basis point reduction from now to 2030 in terms of expense, the expense ratio dollars being eliminated due to AI, for those that would do it and those that don't. You'd see like a 200 basis point reduction. But then going backwards, things like COVID in 2020 contributed to a lot by virtue of people working from home and the acquisition costs of insurance companies, both acquiring workers and acquiring other insurance companies, and the lack or the dearth or reduction in real estate and overhead costs. So it sounds like
believe that.
Yeah, it sounds like COVID, despite everybody trying to get people back in the office now with this kind of new era, it sounds like work from home had some significant benefits, at least in the insurance sector, which I would think you could extrapolate to most white-collar jobs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Morgan Stanley did one of these and they invested the other. Morgan Stanley frames the discussion more towards the AI, the Industrial Revolution, and how the future looks. And the AM Best study was more backward looking. But yeah, this is one of those situations where, early adopters may see kind of the most gains here of AI might see the most gains here as we go forward from an expense ratio standpoint. Now, 200 basis points of an expense ratio. So let's call the expense ratio 40% of the overall combined ratio. So we're talking about less than 1% of the overall combined ratio, if I'm doing the math right there, but still consequential. So overall, their model shows a potential operating income uplift of approximately $9.3 billion. And I assume that's industry wide.
Somehow you got to offset these litigation expenses.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, what a great interview last week with Christina. She was
fantastic.
She did a really good job. That was great. A lot of people reaching out, trying to get her information. So that's good. Hopefully she gets some business out of it.
Yeah, she will.
Yeah.
I mean, are you kidding me? We're on fire.
Of course. If you're not going to get business from us, who do you get business from?
That's right. This segment, let me tell you something. This ICE, this little article here is, well, first of all, what a sad state of affairs. Minnesota could use some good press sometime soon, couldn't we?
Yeah, it's really bad. Like, I have to say that not since COVID have I been so angry.
You need me up there.
At government. I really do. We need you up here.
Are you kidding me? You went to lunch today with Mark and Tony? That had to cheer you up.
It was good, but we missed you,
I know.
Sat down at Redstone,
Wings and a salad?
Wings and a salad at Redstone with Angie wasn't there, but Alyssa, our second favorite bartender. No offense, Alyssa, but you're great. Just yeah. I mean,
Angie, we bonded over COVID, didn't we?
We did. We bonded with Angie over COVID.
We're the only ones in the restaurant.
Leslie Mann, right? The Leslie Mann look like.
Mann, exactly.
Yeah. Minnesota's been rough. It's bad. I mean, it is. It's everywhere. Like, people are worried. It is
a lot of angst.
People are not coming out of their houses. Frankly, we have, somebody that got this woman, Good, Miss Good, got shot in the face twice. And it's awful. I don't know if you saw the most recent video. You see her very cordially cordial is the wrong word. I mean, I don't care if she was, even if she's fleeing a scene.
Definitely wasn't cordial.
Which she clearly was not fleeing a scene, right? But even if she was turning around and just trying to get out of that, right? But she was not turning the wheel towards the ICE agent. Her last words were, "I'm not mad at you, dude," or whatever she said. And then he proceeds to fire 3 rounds or more. I don't know how many rounds were fired, but he hit her 3 times, 2 in the head, 1 in the chest. And his words were, effing bitch or whatever he said. I mean, just after he shot. I mean, this guy clearly was.
There was news circulating that he had been involved in another thing that he was running.
I don't care if he was involved with 30 different things. Like, get him off the street then.
Yeah, and the one guy running after her, I don't know what happened before. If you look at the longer video, the one guy was like running directly after her behind the video, like behind the car.
Right.
The one guy was in front, and the other guy's running. I think he was screaming, "Get the fuck out of the car," et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, what happened? Like, what went down? The breakdown of this is, and there will be a court case for sure.
100%. And the government will lose. Like, this is, I mean, it says it right in the DHS handbook. Like, it's like police.
Kind of like they look like a bunch, some of them, they look kind of not trained. Like
policing 101. Don't fire at a moving vehicle. I mean, the obvious repercussion is the driver dies and the vehicle hits an innocent pedestrian, right? So that's the reason why you don't do it. It's so sad. It's just like she could have been doing anything and still didn't deserve that. I mean, they were out of harm's way by the time they fired, and that just should never have happened.
Yeah, it's just really it's just a heavy time in Minnesota, right? I mean, not just from that perspective, just all the recent shitty news. Like, it seems as though, and Tim Walz's not running again. I don't know. It's not being governed that well, that state. I don't think. From a leadership.
First of all, there's nothing. First of all, ICE was called in to make things safe, allegedly make things safer, and obviously
seems chaotic.
Minnesota has, like, if the goal here, and it clearly is to find and export non-citizens. Like, Minnesota has so many fewer
than California,
than Texas,
Arizona,
New Mexico, California. I mean, Nevada.
Is the
Florida?
Are they literally saying we're up here because it's not?
We're up here because Minnesota is a democratically run blue city, Minneapolis, and this is political. This is, it's all political. I mean,
I think they were saying it was the Somali conversation, the fraud conversation. That's where we're here. That was, but I don't.
Is that
just
why
Somali
ICE is here? I don't think that's why ICE is here. There's no Somali immigrants,
citizens, but
that exactly. So that's not why ICE is here.
FBI there?
I have no idea.
I hope so.
The FBI is not a police force, and frankly, neither is ICE. So it's really bad. I mean, so just anecdotally, I have friends that own restaurants that are getting basically stalked, and
I'm sure
called every day, multiple times a day. Yeah, the employees not showing up. My kids go to a Spanish immersion school, and ICE has been, these are teachers that are performing higher education educational tasks. They're there, they're giving, they're teaching kids.
I'd be curious to understand how many illegal, undocumented, criminals, right? Because that's what they're hunting down is the criminal behavior, not
They're not hunting down criminals.
They can't just, I would assume, and I think the process, I talked to an ICE agent down here. He said, I think the way it works is they bring them in, they would process them. But I said, well, it seems a little arbitrary who's pulled over, who isn't. And then if there's no criminal background, they go in front of a judge, and the judge will typically just kind of like reinstate the paper process if they hadn't done it. But if they have a criminal, they're gone. So to me, it's like if there's, again, Minnesota, I don't think would be me living there. I think you have transient employees that maybe didn't, we've run into situations where someone has a work comp claim and they're not, they have a social security number from someone 100 years ago. But to me, you're right. I mean, California, to me, would have an unbelievable amount of, wherever the border was wide open for however many years, where there's, I don't know, tens of millions of 50.
How about Texas? How about the red states?
Texas too. I mean, definitely on the list. It's got to be.
I mean, it's so over the top. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
I guess California is probably next.
Yeah, I mean, they're everywhere, but this is clearly, and I mean, there's way too many of them here. They're everywhere. They're in Minnetonka. I mean, literally, they're in Minnetonka.
They're in Le Sueur.
Okay, but Minnetonka is one of the most affluent suburbs with one of the top.
Yeah, but if you were an ICE agent, wouldn't you stay in Minnetonka? That's where I'd hang out.
Education systems in the country. And
I'd hang out there, Brandon.
What's the motive? Like, what are we trying to do here? What we're trying to do is repress a very functional society and turn it, right? I mean, I'm so angry, and people are scared. I mean, I know quite a few people who, just aren't even coming out. Like, people aren't filling up at gas stations. People aren't going out. And I mean, it's
several teachers that the kids aren't coming to school for sure.
Yeah. I mean, what are we trying to do? And
I guess make sure that, I mean, are people that have, actual, like, they're legal citizens are still not going to school?
Yeah, because they're taking legal citizens. Most of them are not illegal citizens. They're going door to door, knocking, and they SWAT teams. I mean, it is crazy.
Maybe the wolves are hiding amongst.
And get this. Guess who's defending I'm going to call him a murderer. Guess who's defending the killer here in this situation?
Who?
Chris Madel. Running for governor. Chris Madel. Prominent defense criminal.
I've never heard of the name. I'm out of the loop in Minnesota.
The only reason I know the name is because he was the primary attorney for Brown and Brown when I got sued.
Really?
By them. Yes.
Oh, so you have a little history.
He is a
intrigue, everybody.
Intrigue. Yeah, exactly. Intrigue. I mean, this guy, he is not a good guy. Let me tell you.
Allegedly.
It's allegedly not a good guy.
Brandon's opinion.
My opinion. Nobody else's.
Yeah, but
he is not a good guy.
But it's not. If it's just an opinion, it's okay, huh?
Yeah, it is what it is, right?
We're not going to do this video thing. I have a cold tonight. I'm doing this with a cold.
Yeah, you look great.
It's horrible. Well, unbelievable. I yearn for Minnesota to have some good press and maybe some good leadership too.
And then let's wrap the insurance angle into this. What is, obviously, there's protests all over. We saw what happened. We saw what happened 4 blocks away 6 years ago or 5 years ago with George Floyd. I mean, that ensued riots all over the country. So now, there's not been anything too violent in the wake of this, but who knows what's next. I mean, every day there's some new ICE incident, whether it's in Minnesota or somewhere else.
All the
What's-
news.
what's
yes,
next?
I would agree. It seems to be. You're right. Where it would be a shocking event, maybe but the last several years, it seems to be ramping up and getting more and more.
I'm afraid to turn on the news at this point. I mean,
I can't believe you watch the news.
I don't watch the news, but I'm afraid to look at my phone to see what the most recent article is. Right?
That's why, Brandon. That's why I play golf on Fridays. Hey,
I think
our lives here are not guaranteed. You understand? Smell the flowers, Brandon. This guy, I'm telling you, for all the listeners, he's the hardest worker in this business, period. That's why he's successful. He's dedicated to his craft and his clients. He's unbelievably hard worker. I work really hard too, as well. But I also want to play golf when it's 72 degrees out on Fridays afternoons.
It's a good time to play golf.
I prefer to. Anyways, I just want to appreciate you, buddy. Hey, don't be stressed out. I'll come up and have a Redstone wing and salad with you, okay?
All right, come on up.
This too shall pass.
I hope so.
It's just horrible. I would agree. To me, it's a little, it's aggressive and drastic. I don't know if they think we're going to do drastic things to create, to solve drastic I don't know. I mean,
well, the question with all of this stuff, like we're going to talk about Venezuela here in a second, and the renewed insurer interest in Venezuela.
Oh yeah, I'm going to buy property down there.
What's the goal? Did you see that if you go to the president's
oil, apparently.
So Exxon, the largest oil producer in the world, says Venezuela is uninvestable.
Well, I think it's too costly because it's sludgy oil.
Well, and they can't trust the regime, right? It's still the vice president.
It's still the number 2 that's in place, and who knows what she'll do. She might be a maniac too.
And
I don't think he was a good guy, though. Just to be clear.
No, I totally agree. And hey, the military operation and getting this guy out was impressive. I will give them that. They said they didn't, the people there said they didn't even hear them coming. It was impressive and a flex. There's no question it was a U.S. military flex. That was an impressive operation.
I know, but I thought the campaign promise was we don't want any foreign conflict.
The mission aside, what do we do?
If we do not improve things down there, you cannot, you're a liar, and you didn't run on a campaign promise, and you're just another politician. Here's the other thing. I think we remove leadership, and they turn into these, ill-forgotten, we're not, there's Africa, everything in the Middle East. It's not better after these wars. Period. It's costly. It's maybe good for the manufacturers of weapons, and that's it. I don't know that it's going to be good. So it'll be. Apparently, people are celebrating. I'm sure there are people that aren't celebrating, and those people that aren't celebrating are probably going to be angry at the people that are celebrating.
I hope
the conflict's going to get better or worse. I
hope that it's good for the Venezuelan people. I know that Venezuela is beautiful, is a very beautiful place. I hope it changes. I hope it becomes whatever, democratic or at least livable. But why do we do it? We did it for the oil. Guess what?
100%.
The oil is thick, heavy crude oil that is very, very
everything's
hard,
great there except for the sludgy oil.
Very hard to, process. Extracting's one thing, but then refining it is super expensive. That's why Exxon is saying it's uninvestable. That, in addition to the fact that, guess what? In 3 years, we could say, no bueno, Venezuela is off limits. That's not our country. Next presidential administration. Sorry, guys, this was taken.
It could be worse. It could be worse than the situation they had. Although I've heard stories it wasn't great, and the gangs, and they're in charge. But now, but the gangs are still there. Yeah, they didn't remove the gangs.
They didn't do anything. They
They
just took
removed the
Maduro
leader.
out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, look at this attempts in the past. I mean, Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden. I mean, all these, like, it just because you cut the head off the snake doesn't mean
Oil.
Yeah. There's a
Is that the mission?
multi-thousand year, instability in these places. We try to go in regime change, and then it just, unless you're going to run the country and like be, like install like an American embassy and do, like, there's no American embassy in Venezuela. We have no way of policing this place unless we're going to put boots on the ground, military forces, and that doesn't usually go very well. Then you're going to establish some sort of, opposition force,
With the gang.
mercenaries, it's
Did he say Colombia, you're next? Here's the deal.
And then Cuba, like, let's not even get into
Cuba's beautiful. You've been there, yeah?
I've been there, but like, they're going to cut Cuba off from Venezuelan oil, which, okay, like, maybe that makes sense, but now the Cuban people are going to suffer even more, and they're just in absolute,
I think the question
economic ruins.
The drug boats that they were bombing, they weren't coming all the way to or all the way to the United States. It's thousands and thousands of miles. I wonder, they're like, oh, it's about drugs, and we're going to bomb these drug boats. They don't bring drugs all the way up here. They're going to the, islands around there. They're not bringing them to the.
And by the way,
Mexico's bringing them here.
It's not
via China. Oh, I'm saying no fentanyl, zero fentanyl, zero.
Right.
I would say almost zero drugs. Where are the drugs coming from, Brandon? Typically,
Mexico.
That's right.
And if it's fentanyl, it's via.
So if it's
China.
about drugs, should we do something about that?
I mean, I don't know.
Do you wish you had a clock or like a time machine, and you could, like, again, install Kamala and see what it would be like right now with Kamala? That'd be an interesting thought.
For a lot of reasons, I do. Absolutely. Anyways, Venezuela, renewed insurance interest in Venezuela. I mean, anything from marine routes, cargo, kidnap and ransom, back on the table. I mean, so lots of political risk discussions around the insurance sector as it pertains to Venezuela. So that'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. Like I said, this is temporary. It's a moment in time, and it's not going to mean anything for commerce, because there's no guarantees for anybody that wants to invest. I don't know much about oil, but I've been watching Landman. And
then you know everything you need to know about oil.
And it seems like oil is not that easy to get to.
Well, that is so far-fetched on the, but anyhow, it's pretty far-fetched, but it's great, isn't it? It's a great show.
The show is, I would say the acting is pretty suspect, except for Billy Bob, Andy Garcia, and a few others.
Andy Garcia's a boss, isn't he?
Yeah. Like, you take those guys out, and this show, it's a terrible show.
No, I like the attorney, Nate.
Yeah, Nate's good. The female attorney is like,
she's unbelievable.
They lifted her out of Suits or something. I mean, she's just not believable at all.
Oh, she is too.
No,
she's super believable.
No. Like, those things don't happen. Like, her little, strut in, lay down the law, walk out. Like, that doesn't happen.
Well, maybe it should, Brandon. Maybe it should.
Maybe it should. Maybe it should. Well, it's not good out there. I got to tell you, people.
Jeez. I mean, folks, at least there's one guy. I mean, if this is the first video At least we have, Brandon, he doesn't normally look this depressed. I'm telling you.
I'm very depressed.
You should get in the gym. Get in there with Brandon.
I've been swimming. I told you. Swam last night. Swam 20 laps last night. Not bad.
Swim a little bit more.
That's a half a mile. 20 laps of swimming a half a mile.
I'd say that's pretty good. It's like the bay. It's like I'm trying to think of a bay that's a half a mile.
It's probably like swimming across Gray's Bay, basically.
Gray's Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's more than a half a mile.
I don't think so.
Google
it. Might
it.
be even less. It might be even less than a half a mile.
Let's look. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to see how.
While you're looking that up, let me introduce our guest. So, Eurasia Group. I've been chatting with these guys for quite some time. If you listen to the Prof G podcast, CNBC, their CEO and leader is a very, very gifted international policy, international risk advisor, Ian Bremmer, Eurasia Group. Our guest is Cliff Kupchan. He's chairman of the global macro political side of this company, but previously served in senior roles at the U.S. State Department during the Clinton administration, worked on the House International Relations Committee with a focus on Russia, foreign assistance in Africa. Every year they release this document that I've found fascinating over the past 5 or 6 years. Their Eurasia Group's top risks, which identifies, interestingly, the United States as the primary source of global risk and highlights U.S. posture in the Western Hemisphere as a central geopolitical variable.
I mean, just based on the sheer numbers and the geographical area. I mean, I can't disagree with that.
Yeah. So super excited to have Cliff on as a guest and joining us at Risk Seller. So without further ado, we'll cut away to the interview and we'll get back to you in a minute. Let's be honest, most agencies don't have an ops problem. They have a visibility problem. FreeFlow.ai shines a light on what's actually happening inside your firm. It's not judgmental, but it's honest. We have a special guest today, Cliff Kupchan from Eurasia Group. Cliff, did I get the last name pronunciation right?
Yep, it's perfect.
Perfect. All right. Where Cliff leads the global macro and geopolitical analysts for governments, investors, and multinational companies around the world, bringing more than 2 decades of experience in international affairs, including senior roles in the U.S. government during the Clinton administration, with deep expertise in Russia, U.S. foreign policy, and global dynamics. Cliff, thanks so much for being on Risk Seller.
Sure, my pleasure.
So every year, you guys release your top risks of the year. And actually, I think I did an interview with your team back in 2020 prior to COVID. And that was the last time that you were on my podcast talking about that. But we're here in what is a very interesting time in the United States. But trend-wise, theme-wise, what's the overall theme of the report this year, would you say, if there is one?
The overall theme, I would say, is the dramatically changed role of the United States in the international system. I mean, for my lifetime, most of my lifetime, the United States was the anchor of the international system, the anchor of stability. We created the system in 1945. And now you have a great power taking down the system that it created, which, from my perspective as a political scientist, is fascinating because it's never happened before in the history of the modern nation state. And the convulsions, the political revolution that we write about in the text, the convulsions going on in the United States have a lot of ripple effects throughout the world. The U.S. is no longer the reliable partner. Countries have to hedge against the U.S. And for the first time in my lifetime, something I thought I would never say, the major source of political risk in the world right now is the United States. And Putin and Russia are probably a distant second. So that kind of logic, it sort of weaves throughout the report. And it is, last year's report was similar, but the previous 18 were very, very different.
So I think that the answer is probably obvious, but what's changed that puts the U.S. in position numero uno?
Well, let me give a less obvious answer, even though I could have given the obvious one. I think the less obvious answer is that voters, citizens, especially in the U.S. and Europe, but now it's growing, but especially in the U.S. and Europe, have decided that the globalization-oriented, free trade-oriented values of their leaders just don't work for them anymore. They don't have them in the pocketbook. They don't believe it. They don't believe in free trade. And that has created the rise of right-wing populism. And it's not just the United States. The AfD and the Rally Nacional are rising across Europe. But the U.S. is the biggest loser in some sense, or the biggest winner, depending on your politics, of this shift. And it comes in the form of Donald Trump 1.0 and Donald Trump 2.0, which is a much stronger form of the previous Trump. So it is a shift in the underlying electorate in the United States. And I do want to stress right up front that Trump got 77 million votes. He won the election. Many Americans among Americans who prioritize democracy in polling data, a majority voted for Trump because many Americans think the system is broken and needs to be fixed. So I think that many voters out there voted for a revolution, and they got one on the theory that would be, but anything's better than what's going on right now.
You mentioned that it's not working for them. The system isn't working for them. I assume that's when you say something like that, I assume it's mostly a kind of a financial analysis.
Yeah, mostly, yes.
So, it's obviously working for many, but the disparity between those that it's working for and those that it's not working for, I guess from my lens, it has grown exponentially. What do you think the reason for that is?
It's mainly bread and butter, the affordability word, issues, just the most core economic issues. Yes, Biden might have done an okay job on inflation. He did, in fact. But prices are still going up. When I go home to central Wisconsin, or when I speak in Des Moines, people are really hurting. People are really hurting. They can't afford eggs. They can't afford groceries. Mortgage rates, higher for longer. Never, they're really getting kicked. And to me, that is the fundamental issue that the bicoastal elites have failed to deal with. Is most Americans are really hurting economically. I think that's the core.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'll move on to my hometown, Minneapolis, where I'm sitting now. A lot going on.
Yeah.
One of the core themes of your document was the kind of the rising political violence, and we're basically seeing that in real time within a week of your release here. From your perspective, is this? I mean, it's obviously been a trend that we've seen, Portland, different blue states, but is this a one-off flashpoint or a preview of how politics is increasingly showing up at an operational level?
I think that the dynamics in Minneapolis have the potential to be a flashpoint. I think it really depends on how aggressive the administration is from here on out. and in part on the dynamics of the other side in Minneapolis, how much risk they're willing to assume. But it's a dangerous situation. It's a structural one. I mean, Trump is, very much in the. Stephen Miller controls a lot of what Trump thinks. And Stephen Miller is the uber hawk on immigration. He has been throughout my career. I think this is a campaign promise. It's a core. Immigration is a core campaign promise, Trump administration. This is going to get. It's not going to get any better. How much worse it gets, I think, is the key. Is the key, and I think it will get worse because I think he's going to double down. He'll lose the House, in all likelihood. He'll feel threatened. He and his inner circle don't have a great lifestyle ahead of them if indeed a Democrat wins. So I think that what we wrote about in Political Revolution, which was our leading risk, is the chance that the Trump administration will try to tilt the playing field structurally in the Republicans' favor in the midterms. I don't think it'll help with the House, but we're likely to get that kind of a desperation moving forward, and that doesn't really bode well for any of these issues.
It's so interesting being so close to it here and yet so far away. I'm in suburban Minneapolis basically, but anything from I just got a Ring notification that ICE is pulling over people, a mile away from my house. My kids go to a Spanish immersion school. I'm in a very affluent neighborhood. This isn't South Minneapolis or North Minneapolis. This is, Lake Minnetonka area of so it's the juxtaposition of this sort of mentality is so interesting to me because for so long the Republican, the old school Republican Party leaning on things like the Second Amendment and we have guns, we own guns because we're worried that government is going to come in and start doing this effectively. It's the flip flop here that's occurred in terms of the almost the socialistic mentality. You look at Trump's narrative even this week, capping credit cards to 10%.
Right.
ICE agents all over the place knocking on doors. I mean, it's like something out of the old school Republican, anti-Republican playbook. It's so interesting to me that he's become like this state socialist in some kind of way and throwing out things that maybe even Bernie Sanders wouldn't have thrown out with credit card caps. How does this play into this like new world order where the this income disparity, these people are, wanting more out of life, but this is what they're getting. How does this sync with people?
Well, Trump's a good politician. He's a great politician. He's a lot of things. And he's doing a lot of his tax cuts drastically favor the rich, right? So he's doing that on the one hand. Corporate tax cuts and personal tax cuts. He understood in the special elections this year, including in Virginia, that he is very vulnerable. The Republicans are very vulnerable on the affordability issue. So now we're coming up with these de facto price controls, right? On credit cards and in other ways. I think they're going to be very politically popular. Just like no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. I mean, throws these things out there. There's often not much follow through, and people's lives don't improve. But I think we're going to see more of it. I think he's going to be very judicious and effective with it. And this is clearly his game plan to address the affordability issue, which he doesn't think is a word of the Democratic roost, as you know.
Right.
But this is the comeback, and I think it's seriously only in the sense that there are these politicians that, depending on our politics, we may or may not like Trump, like Netanyahu, but to underestimate them. I think these guys have made a career out of being underestimated. And again, I think people where I live in the East Coast bubble, in the liberal East Coast bubble, have paid the extraordinarily dear price for underestimating Donald Trump as a politician and even as an intellect. And this guy does have a vision, right? Not one that I necessarily agree with, but I think it's really important to understand what you either agree with or what you're up against.
I guess on that note, help me understand what the vision is. It seems so scrambled.
Okay.
It seems like there's there's some sort of placation of his base still occurring, but on items like this that are clearly socialistic, not in line with maybe his original vision, and even like we can get into Venezuela and Greenland and all the things that his base did not vote for,
right?
As a lay person, as a lay political person that's just sitting on the sidelines, I'm struggling to find what the vision is, or if it's just kind of shooting from the hip with whatever's he can push back on that day.
Well, nice try, but I don't think you're a lay political person sitting on the sidelines. So look, I think our number 6 risk, I lose the order sometimes, was American state capitalism of American characteristics. And Trump's administration, president, is the most interventionist president since 1945. This guy's not really a Republican, right? He's hijacked the Republican Party, but he's not a Republican. He is, a tax and spend Republican, and he is picking winners and losers. He is, a massive industrial policy. He's taking equity in U.S. corporations. So I think his vision is one of domestically a very big state government with a large role by the government in producing revenue, whether it's tariffs or equity in American corporations. And the equity part is really kind of new and novel.
And very state level, social.
More state interference.
Yeah.
That's one dimension. Another dimension is kind of assert primacy or level the playing field, depending on your perspective, in the international economic realm via tariffs. And we saw that in the first year, the unleashing Liberation Day and the unleashing of tariffs. I think we've hit peak tariff. He's now been fought to a standstill by the Chinese, and they played this brilliantly, right? They used the critical minerals leverage to just take the T word out of his hand. And the Chinese were shocked by how effective it was. And the Trump administration didn't know what hit them. The Chinese had this draft export control law where, for instance, if a commodity was made in Nevada, a battery using 0.1% or more of Chinese content, the American company would have needed an export license from China to sell it in Canada. That's what the Chinese were proposing. I mean, it was a massive, massive extraterritorial reach kind of thing. And the Trump administration just freaked out, right? They didn't see it coming. So a draw and lower tariffs with China. That deal's coming into place right now. Tariffs didn't work there. Most of the big countries, the EU, India will, Brazil will have trade deals. So no more tariff there. So we've hit peak tariff. So we have big government, we have tariff. The third definition of the vision is foreign policy. And here I think Trump was not well understood. He's not an isolationist. His base may be, but he's not. He is what I would call a muscular unilateralist, which is sharp, discreet, uses the force when he thinks the U.S. national interest is centrally engaged. Iran, the nuclear program, Fordo, the bomb down the mountain, and Venezuela. And I think we're going to see more of that moving forward. He's really now gone whole hog behind this Don Roe doctrine concept, which we wrote about. We might have come up with the term, I don't know, but not sure about that. But he's just all in on it, and from Greenland to Iran to Cuba I think that we're going to see a very activist president. Now, one final comment here. His base is really interesting. They are isolationist unless it works, right? And so far it's been working. And what we find is in the numbers is the base supports Fordo, supports Venezuela. Man, will that tip if Venezuela goes south, which it might, right? I mean,
Right.
We're dealing with a bunch of very anti-American elites right now, tiptoeing very, very successfully. But high risk, but so far he's fine with his base.
So I'm curious as to, Greenland in particular is just an interesting kind of scrambling of the EU relationship. But, we have this whole European kind of foreign policy kind of mantra that they wrote about recently, correct? And that relationship with Europe is obviously from a high level standpoint seems very disrupted. From a business person that does a lot of work with the UK and Europe and other places, it seems really tense. And there's such a huge trade relationship that the service industry has with Europe. I'm from our standpoint, it's a little scary, like what the result of that might be. But do you think that is more bluster? Or, I mean, you said he's a muscular unilateralist. Is it just bluster, or is he really trying to change how we live, work, and, strategize about the EU?
It's a lot of the latter, I fear, in that, we all saw what they wrote in the National Security Strategy, right? So civilizational failure. J.D. Vance has sat down with the head of the AfD, the German Populist Party that comes from, very anti-Semitic far-right roots. He thinks of the EU as one big hindrance on American taxpayers. So I think that in Greenland, Trump wants the flex. He wants the American flag plastered over this huge, huge landmass. And he really wants it. And my understanding from the Europeans is that's what they think too right now. That's what they fear. Now, I don't think that the Trump folks fundamentally understand or come to terms with the trade-off here. Because what the transatlantic relationship, NATO, but also this massive EU trade relationship with the U.S. is built on. It's the same thing the currencies are fundamentally built on. It's trust. Okay, it's trust. And if the U.S., through extreme coercion or de facto whatever, or militarily, which I don't think they'll do, but takes Greenland, then this transatlantic trust is going to be really reduced. Destroyed would be the strong word of it. And, people just haven't really thought yet. If you're sitting in, God knows where, in London or Paris, thinking about your huge exposure to the United States, and just having to start to question whether your recourse in American courts and the American system is going to be the same that it's always been, right? So I think we're on the verge of a tipping point here. I hope that the European side is making clear to their American counterparts just how immense the stakes are over Greenland.
I mean, even something as fundamental as, I know that, folks like Jamie Dimon have been maybe influential on some of the corporate level strategy that kind of comes into play when Trump is making decisions. JP Morgan obviously has huge international exposure, European exposure. I mean, is the devolvement of like international business financial sector, I mean, is it exposed?
I think the fundamentals of U.S. EU business, economics, trade I think that potentially it is exposed to the foundation. Now, it wouldn't be my base case that the U.S. is going to rip away Greenland. But the more I look at what Trump says, the more I look at Stephen Miller's influence over him right now, the more I worry. Now, this whole Venezuela down road doctrine thing is going on for a couple of weeks. And as an analyst, I try to avoid recency bias, which is that what's happened the last couple of weeks is what will happen. Because that's wrong. And there will be time, and the U.S. private sector will start to clear its throat on this. I think once they realize what they've been hit with and what the downside risk is, I think you'll get a lot of people screaming bloody murder. Now, the problem is that to an unexpected extent, this is kind of like the reshoring mandate to Trump. I mean, it's become, that reshoring is a core MAGA belief, right? That in many ways came out of hillbilly elegy. J.D. Vance's, I think, excellent book. Don't think the same guy who wrote that book is the vice president, but it's an excellent book. Like reshoring, so Greenland and U.S. primacy. In the region, maybe this is called the broader Western Hemisphere. Greenland's not in the Western Hemisphere. I don't think he knows that. But I think it's close to a core belief for Trump. And once you get into that set of Trump's brain, it's very hard to dislodge. So it's going to be a rough ride. I don't think the worst is by any means guaranteed. I also don't think the American business community knows what they're up against yet. I don't think they get it.
So, yeah, are you surprised that you have not heard more businesses breaking? I mean, it seems like there's, in Trump 2.0, it seems like there's a lot more sitting idly by, waiting, hoping, without much. Like I said, I think Jamie Dimon is really the only person I ever see really pushing back, from any large, certainly any large tech companies, any financial institutions. Are you surprised you haven't seen more of that?
Well, the tech companies, there's big upside, right? A lot of them are very close to Trump and involved in a lot of the deals. So I put it like this. I am surprised. If I were sitting in my chair 6 months ago, I would be surprised there hasn't been more. Now I'm less surprised because people are scared, right? People don't want to get in the crosshairs of this administration and get called out, get penalized, suffer regulatory pressure, suffer whatever the numerous levers the Trump administration has brought to bear. If you're not aligned with this administration, you can lose a lot of money. And I think that businesses are keeping their heads down. And that's pretty obvious both in your hometown and in everywhere.
Yeah. Well, let's try to leave it on a positive note here.
Okay.
Which is hard to find lately. But what are your, obviously the midterms are going to be a huge focal point for, the Democrats and some
Right.
semblance of like regaining normalcy in terms of checks and balances.
Right.
What are your predictions in terms of, I think you already mentioned you think they might flip the House, but what are your predictions in terms of what will happen in those elections, but also how that might rein in, hopefully, some of these decisions and things that are in process here?
Okay, so if I could take a bit of a liberty here and give you a broader answer. So I don't like to come off like the Grim Reaper, right? And this is a risk report. It's not a good news report.
Right.
But let me say a few things and then get to the election. Because I think there are tremendous opportunities out there. I don't think this country has come to terms with the upsides of artificial intelligence. We are pursuing LLMs in this country and, general intelligence, and the use cases aren't really working so far. A lot of businesses don't find it profitable, but over time, they will. And from medicine to healthcare to education, the upside is enormous, first. Secondly, India. I just want to talk about the good news out there. I mean, 7% growth. Modi, after a year off, is focusing on reform. India is cutting huge numbers of free trade agreements. Very optimistic on India. Third, Saudi Arabia. Yes, this guy was involved in the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. That being said, and it's hard to get by that, I know, he's turning the country around. The youth are really turned on. I've been going to Riyadh for a decade, and I was there 6 times last year. Man, it is just, I briefed the minister of one of the ministers, his staff, senior staff, 13 people. Nobody was over 30. It was like teaching a kindergarten class, right? in Saudi Arabia. Okay. Thanks for that. I just really wanted to share with your listeners that.
Yeah, no, that's great.
That we do good news too, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, on the elections, I think, 80% chance, very high chance that the Democrats take the House back. In my view, yes, it will make a big difference. In the sense that the news flow, which Trump is a genius at dominating, he can't dominate the news flow anymore. He's going to get impeached. You're going to get these very aggressive, appropriately aggressive, Democratic congressmen and women having corruption hearings, I'm sure they'll got to get Kushner in there, right? What's he been doing in the Middle East, for the last year? And so I think the narrative, the affordability issue, they'll be all over it. Now, Trump will double down, as we say in the report. So you're going to get this kind of riptide effect of the news cycle changing, but Trump probably taking even more extreme measures, grabbing more equity stakes in companies. I think for the private sector, it'll be very bumpy, the next 3 years. But I do think, in my own view, we're approaching peak Trump generally, and that once the Democrats take one house back, I think we'll start to see what we've seen. We think the political revolution we're right about is ultimately going to fail. And it will begin to fail, I think, when the Democrats take the House back, because you just can't keep this up.
Right. Well, that is good news. Well, I think we're right at 30 minutes, so we'll leave it there. But Cliff Kupchan, thank you so much. This was super, super interesting. And like I said, love listening to you guys and reading your stuff. So where can anybody find Eurasia Group's content, information? Where can they find you and your interviews and that sort of thing?
EurasiaGroup.net is our homepage. It's a pretty good homepage, and we do interesting stuff. So I hope you and your readers will use us liberally.
Absolutely. Cliff, thank you so much.
My pleasure.